Hey guys, Jake the Sports here, and today, this is my first episode of what I'm gonna call Jake's Takes. Um, this is just basically kind of like a podcast, something I'm also gonna upload on YouTube, so some of you guys will actually be seeing my face. Um, but yeah, it's basically just gonna be me talking about football, obviously college football. That's basically what everything on my channel is centered around. And yeah, this the videos where I rant in my backyard are usually about the Fighting Irish. I'm gonna try to involve other teams though, and this is gonna be really just not only about Notre Dame. There's gonna be some episodes about other teams, and in this episode in particular, I'm gonna be talking about playoff contenders. So yeah, let's get right into it. So as I said, basically in this episode or podcast, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to be going over my playoff predictions or who I think is going to make the playoff this year. And it's going to be a hard pick. I mean, there's a lot of teams still in the running as we'll get over that. And I will tell you guys who's in the running. And also, yeah, I know the setup's not very good, but eventually it'll get better and better and it'll look more professional. Um, so yeah, just if you're doing work outside or whatever, you're doing a workout or something, you don't even have to watch the YouTube version. That's why I'm putting it on pretty much every platform. Um, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, whatever, wherever. Um, I'm gonna use Anchor, obviously. They make it really easy to just distribute it to all the platforms. So I'll do that, and yeah, let's just dive right into my playoff predictions and who I think is gonna make the playoffs, and yeah, we'll just go over all the teams. So the night I'm recording this, it's actually Friday night, and this is obviously after Notre Dame had that huge win over Clemson. I'm super happy about that, and yeah, they jumped all the way up to number 2 in the rankings, just behind Alabama. Now, if I was giving you my personal top five, it'd be Bama 1, Ohio State 2, Notre Dame 3, Clemson 4, Texas A&M 5. Um, Listen, Ohio State, I'm just letting every Ohio State fan or even college football fan know if Ohio State or any team in the Big Ten gets a loss for that matter, they're done. I mean, how can you have like a 6-1 Ohio State get in over, let's say Notre Dame loses in the ACC championship and they sit there at 10-1? I mean, you got to put Notre Dame in. That's not even me being biased, but do I think Ohio State will be one of the best 4 teams at the end of the year? Absolutely. They look really good. The only spot they need to fix up is really their defense. That's all. And even that isn't. It's not like horrible. It's not like Oklahoma bad. It's still fine. And then I see some people having Florida in front of Texas A&M, but Texas A&M, the Aggies beat the Gators, so I don't know what's up there. I think it's pretty obvious that no one should have Florida in front of Texas A&M at this point. Listen, if Florida wins their conference, if Florida wins the SEC over a great Alabama team, then okay. But there's Florida. I mean, yeah, Georgia's a good win, but Texas A&M beat you still. And unless you guys win that conference championship, which is a huge accomplishment, Texas A&M should be in front of you, without a doubt in my mind. Um, so yeah, we'll just go over pretty much all the teams in contention, and there's still a lot of them. There's still a lot of them. And keep in mind, the season's starting to wrap up soon. I mean, you got about 4 or 5 weeks left in the college football season. That's not much. You do not have much time if you're a team trying to sneak your way into the playoff. You got to get some impressive wins quick. But yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Cincinnati, BYU, Indiana, Oregon, Wisconsin. Those are all the main teams who are undefeated and have a legit shot at the playoff. I did not name Coastal Carolina, Marshall, and Liberty. all those are undefeated Group of Five teams. Liberty's they're getting a lot of disrespect. And shout out to Liberty. They actually moved up from the FCS, I think, 2 years ago now. Yeah, they're the most recent team to move up to FBS from FCS level. If you don't know that, learn your college football terminology. But yeah. But if anyone really thinks Coastal Carolina, Marshall, and Liberty are making it into the playoff at this point, it's just not going to happen. Liberty's 7-0 and they're sitting there at 22. They're not getting into the playoff, unfortunately. I wouldn't be offended if you put those teams in, though. But basically, Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Cincinnati, BYU, Indiana, Oregon, and Wisconsin. Those are the teams undefeated right now that have a legit shot at the playoff. And Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, and Wisconsin, all those teams have either 1 or 3 wins. So take that as you will. Their seasons are pretty early on, and we'll get into Wisconsin in a minute, but it's really not looking good for their playoff hopes. Even if they are one of the best 4 teams in the country, they already have 2 of their games canceled, not postponed, canceled. So Wisconsin's got to be on red alert right now. But other than that, yeah, we'll get into pretty much every team in contention. So if we go over every single team in contention, you got Alabama, obviously, sitting there at number 1. Notre Dame also undefeated there at number 2. Ohio State sitting there undefeated at number 3. Clemson with that lone loss to the Fighting Irish, obviously. Big win, boys. They're sitting there at number 4 and 7-1. Texas A&M is there at 5. They are also 5. They're 5-1. They also have 1 loss. They are still a contender, absolutely. If anyone says otherwise, it's just not true. You also got Florida sitting there at number 6. They have 1 lone loss. That is to the Aggies. And then here's the interesting factor. I think I don't remember the last time we've had 2. I'm counting BYU as a Group of 5 team here because they're pretty much playing a Group of 5 schedule. Usually they do play some Pac-12 teams, but not this year because the Pac-12, they're not playing non-con games this year. They barely have a schedule. Even inside their conference. But, so Cincinnati and BYU both sitting there with 0 losses. And, you look at both of their schedules. It doesn't look like they're going to lose another game, especially BYU. I will be shocked. I think BYU plays Northern Alabama. And then I know they also play Army because that game got postponed. I don't know if they're remaking that. I hope they do, or making that back up. I hope they do because that'll be a great matchup. And yeah, shout out to the Independents. They're showing out this year. The Irish had to sit on the bleachers. We had to join the ACC because everyone said we were afraid to join a conference, and we're still dominating. So yeah, take that as you will. Get triggered, but yeah, BYU. It's not a matter of BYU keeping their undefeated record. BYU at this point is a shoo-in to be undefeated. They will be undefeated at the end of the year. They'll be there at 11-0 or 10-0, however many wins they do have. It's just a matter of will the playoff put them in, and I'll get into that more in a minute. And then Cincinnati, they've looked really impressive. Really, really impressive. This may be the best Group of 5 team I've ever seen. They have not played a close game with any team. And they've just, we expected SMU Cincinnati to be a close game. I think on the road, too, Cincinnati just absolutely road graded them. It wasn't even close. They just blew them out of the water. So, Cincinnati, they look really good. And then also BYU. And Miami, I guess you could put them as a contender, but here's the thing about Miami. Listen, Clemson's not losing another game in the ACC, and if you think that's going to happen, you're just silly, and you're college football ignorant. It's just not going to happen. I refuse to believe it will happen. I think they play like Virginia Tech, Pitt, and one other team. I know they're playing Virginia Tech, but I forgot the other two. It's going to be an easy 3 wins for them, though. They should not have a problem with that. And here's the thing: Clemson. Listen, there's no divisions in the ACC this year, so it's just the top 2 teams. It's just like the Big 12. So basically, Clemson has the head-to-head win over Miami. So they're both sitting there with 1 loss, as Clemson has the 1 loss to Notre Dame, and Miami has the 1 loss, to Clemson. So that automatically puts Clemson ahead of Miami. But Notre Dame, let's say they just go undefeated the rest of the regular season. There's a possibility they don't. They could lose to BC, and I'm not trying to be cocky here, but let's just say that for an example. Notre Dame would obviously be ahead of Clemson, and even if Notre Dame has the 1 loss, they'll be ahead of Clemson, and Clemson will be ahead of Miami. So unless Clemson loses another game, which really isn't going to happen, Miami is pretty much out of the playoffs. Listen, and here's why I think. You look with Texas A&M, they have like a really solid win, and say Florida gets in over Alabama, or even if Florida loses to Alabama, Texas A&M has a shot because they have like that marquee win. Miami lost their biggest game, and it wasn't even close. And I know Texas A&M lost to Alabama by a big margin, but that win over Florida, it looks really good, and Florida's a really good team. I don't care what people say. Florida's a really good team. So, it's just Miami doesn't have that win. They don't have that win. And I think that's what hurts them. And I think you can obviously tell by the rankings here. Miami's at number 9. Texas A&M's at number 5. Even I don't think the AP thinks they're getting in, and I don't think Miami's a contender either. I'm sorry, Miami, but I just don't see you making the playoffs this year, and it's pretty unfortunate. So at this point, I guess you could have Miami as a contender. I don't think they are, but then you got Indiana. They're 3-0. They've looked. Listen, I think Indiana's getting a little overrated here. Let's take a look at their 3 wins. I think. So you got. Let's see. I'm trying to think here. Indiana, they beat who? Okay, yeah. So that's what I thought. So Indiana beat Penn State, which week 1 looked like a really good win. Don't get it mixed up. It looked like a really good win week 1. But Penn State's they don't look like what they used to be. They just don't. So that win's kind of bleh. And they're not. I don't even think Penn State's. Yeah, Penn State's not even ranked anymore. Here, wait, hold on 1 second. Yeah, Penn State's not even ranked anymore. So that win's basically down the drain. I mean, it's week 1 it looked good, but it didn't really. And you guys won in overtime, 36-35, and then you come out and beat a Rutgers team who, they beat Michigan State. Congratulations, but that's like their first Big Ten win since 2017. So is that a good win? No, it's not. And then you got Michigan, and it looked like a pretty good matchup again, a ranked matchup. I don't know who's favored, but they were on the road against Michigan, and they won. But Michigan's now out of the top 25. So how big of a win is that? It's not very big. It's just not. So I don't really know where I stand with Indiana, and I really hope Ohio State plays them next week. And I'm letting you know now, if that Ohio State-Indiana game is canceled, that's really bad for the Big Ten's hopes at the playoffs. That's really bad, because you'll have Ohio State's second game canceled, and Indiana's biggest test, that'll be off the table. You got to keep in mind, due to the Big Ten's horrible scheduling, I'm not even going to rant about that. Due to their horrible scheduling, though, they thought they could play 7 or 8 games in 8 weeks. And it's just not going to happen. And games have already been canceled, not postponed, canceled. That's the marquee word, canceled. These games are not getting postponed. Notre Dame Wake Forest, I was mad about that. But that game wasn't canceled. It got postponed because they kept an open bye week at the end of the season open. So the Big Ten can't afford that. They don't have those bye weeks. They're playing 7 or 8 games, I forgot how many, in 8 weeks. In 8 weeks. They're playing every single week. And they expect it to work out. It's just not going to work out. And, I mean, we're not even halfway through the Big Ten's season. And it's already sinking their hopes at making the playoffs. I think Ohio State will somehow get in though. I'll get into depth on that more in a minute. But yeah, if that Indiana Ohio State game is canceled, that's really gonna suck. And I'm not gonna talk about Indiana much here because I want to see them play Ohio State, which is I believe in 2 weeks. And the winner of that game, let's say if Indiana wins that game and wins the rest of their games, they're winning the West, and the Ohio State Buckeyes, they're in that, or sorry, they'll win the East, and the Ohio State Buckeyes are in that division, so they're not gonna win it, and you'll have a situation like Alabama, who actually knocked out Ohio State. Alabama didn't win their division and got in the playoffs, so we could see something like that. That'd be pretty crazy. To put 2 Big Ten teams in that only played 7 or 8 games. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's an interesting scenario. But yeah, I'm not going to talk about Indiana until they play that game against Ohio State because, listen, yeah, they're 3-0, and it's hard to win all your games. But people, I think, are overrating Indiana in the sense that they think they've beaten all these good teams. And yeah, they've beaten good names. They've beaten teams like Michigan and Penn State. Those are good names. They're not good teams. By names, I mean they're good programs, obviously. I hope everyone understands that. Yeah, so then you look at Oregon. They're 1-0. They just started their play. And then Wisconsin. It really stinks because Wisconsin looked really good. They looked damn good. But I may be the first one to say it, but they're not getting in the playoff. I don't care if they win the rest of their game in their conference. They're not getting in the playoff. They already have 2 games canceled. It's just not happening. It's just not going to happen. And it really stinks because Wisconsin looked like a really good team. And they still do look like a good team. But it's just not going to happen. It's just not happening. And then Oklahoma State, an outside contender. The Big 12 is, I mean, who's talking about the Big 12 anymore? Really, let's be honest. So yeah, you could put Oklahoma State as a contender. They're not getting in. I'm just gonna be honest. I know they're playing a lot of games, but it's just not gonna happen. So then yeah, we got Wisconsin, Oklahoma State. If you want to put them in, I don't really care. Then we skip over Coastal Carolina and Marshall, again, group of 5 teams, but they're, it's just too late in the game. They're already at 15 and 16. They're not getting in. And then you have the last real contender I see is USC. They're 1-0, pretty far back at number 20, but yeah, they still have a shot. And if you want to throw Northwestern in, sure. Maybe they pull off a huge upset over Ohio State if they make it that far into the conference championship. But again, Northwestern's going to have to be perfect and go undefeated with no losses in order to do that and beat Ohio State. So it's already a long shot. But yeah. I'll give you guys my predictions for who I think is going to get in now. And just all the scenarios that I think will play out. The scenario I think will happen, Irish fans won't like to hear it, but what I think is going to happen is it's going to be 1 Alabama. I think Alabama beats Florida, so that knocks out Florida. Alabama stays at number 1. Number 2, Notre Dame loses to number 4 Clemson or number 3 Clemson, wherever they are in the rankings, in the ACC championship. I've been over this, and I'm a huge believer in that it is really hard to beat a team twice. And I was watching Wisconsin, Ohio State with my friend. I think it was last year. And when LSU won the national championship, obviously 2019. And because of Ohio State's not amazing performance against Wisconsin, they fell back from 1 to 2 in the rankings, which I think cost them a semifinal, which cost them a finale spot. Oh, sorry. But yeah, I mean, whoever was playing Oklahoma in the first round, it was just a bye. Let's just be honest here. You could have put Ohio State, Clemson, or LSU. LSU obviously won. Any of those teams would have absolutely blown out Oklahoma, and it wouldn't have been close. Yeah, I still regret losing that Michigan game because I think we would have had a legitimate shot to make the playoff that year, 2019. Now, will we have won? Hell no. Our 2019 team is nowhere near our 2020 team. But anyways, I was getting off track there. So, yeah, I was talking about how it's really hard to beat a team twice in a season. And Ohio State they didn't barely beat Wisconsin, but it was hard for them to be an underdog twice in a row. So imagine how hard it is for Notre Dame to go back out there and beat Clemson. Is it impossible? No, it's not impossible. Notre Dame's going to improve on things that they messed up in the Clemson game we just played. But Clemson's also going to do the same thing, and they're going to have Trevor Lawrence back. And Trevor Lawrence, I don't think he'll make as big of an impact as people think in that game because Ugalele threw for like 439 yards. I think it'll be close still. But I think Clemson will win. And I'm just letting you know right now, if Notre Dame beats Clemson in the ACC championship, Clemson's not getting in. They're just not. It's not going to happen. Clemson's not getting in with 2 losses against Notre Dame. It's just not going to happen. And if Notre Dame beats Clemson twice, I think you got to put them at number 1. You guys might think I'm a homer there, but keep in mind, I think Ohio State's ahead of Notre Dame right now. I believe they are. I believe Notre Dame is the 3rd best team in the country, not the 2nd. But yeah, you got to look at Notre Dame as the number 1 team in the country if they beat Notre Dame in that ACC championship game. But yeah, that pretty much puts Clemson in for the playoff. And then I think Ohio State wins all their games. But here's the thing. I'm sorry, Ohio State fans, but in any Big Ten fan for that matter, I think Ohio State I'll say Northwestern. I think they beat Northwestern in the championship game, in the Big Ten championship game. But it's not enough. I think Ohio State ends with 5 or 6 wins due to so many canceled games. I mean, they already have 1 canceled game, so there you go. And I think the committee leaves Ohio State out of the playoff for not playing enough games, even going undefeated. So yeah. So that would put Alabama at number 1, Clemson at number 2 in my mind, and then at number 3, I would have Notre Dame. Even with that 1 loss, I think they're the number 3 team. They split with Clemson, so that's got to mean something. And even though they didn't win their conference, that's a running joke. But yeah, even though they didn't win their conference, I think they get in at number 3 there. And then number 4, I think at the end of the day, this is what the committee's going to be looking at. I think they're going to think Notre Dame's a shoo-in. I think this is what I think the committee's going to be thinking. They're going to say Alabama's 1, Clemson's 2. They know that now, and they're going to question what's 3 and 4. And I think the big storylines are going to be: is Notre Dame or is Ohio State going to snatch that 3 spot? And will they leave Ohio State out of the playoff for not playing as many games? But yeah, I think they'll put Notre Dame at number 3, and just leave Ohio State out altogether, not even number 4. So that leaves Texas A&M there with that one loss. I think Cincinnati and BYU both go undefeated. So really, after they show number 3, Notre Dame, I think the real question is Ohio State, Texas A&M, Cincinnati, or BYU. And at the end of the day, um, I'm gonna put Cincinnati in there. Big shocker, but if you matched up Texas A&M and Cincinnati, I think Cincinnati would win. Again, this is the playoffs preference, and I think it's about time a Group of 5 team got in the playoff. I know a lot of people hate that, but we just gotta try it out. I mean, we gotta see how it goes. You know, you gotta put one of these different teams in there. And last year really sucked because I wanted to see Utah play in the playoffs. A non-powerhouse, a big household name, actually make it into the playoff. But yeah, I don't even think Oregon or USC, even if they go undefeated, I think they're in the same boat as Ohio State. You just don't have as many games played. So that leaves Texas A&M, Cincinnati, and BYU. And I just think the main thing with Texas A&M, which is a huge loss for them, is that they didn't beat. They beat Florida, sorry, but Florida lost to Alabama, and I think that's really tough. And I think it hurts A&M more even if Florida loses by less to Alabama than Texas A&M did, and Florida's not getting in the playoff. But I could definitely see the committee sneaking A&M in there. But yeah, can you imagine that though? A decision between Ohio State, Texas A&M, Cincinnati, and BYU. That'd be crazy to me, and that'd be awesome. But yeah, right now my prediction is Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Notre Dame 3, and Cincinnati 4. I think that'll definitely change over time, especially if many of Ohio State's games, if Ohio State's playing all their games, well, I'm going to change my predictions, and I'm hoping to upload one of these episodes every week, and I'll update my predictions week by week, so you guys can get an insider, an inside. I don't know what you call it, like an inside into my thoughts. I don't know how you pronounce that, but yeah, just like what I'm thinking, and where I rank these teams, where I think they'll end up at the end of the year. But yeah, like I said, I'll give you my top 6 right now. It's pretty much the same as what they have. It's Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, Notre Dame 3, Clemson 4, A&M 5, and Florida 6. And I mostly agree. I mean, I have Cincinnati 7 and BYU 8. It doesn't change much. But yeah, those are my thoughts on what I think the playoff will be like. And if Notre Dame looks really impressive, maybe I'll have them winning that ACC championship game at the end of the year. But yeah, I'm hoping to just do a quick segment. I made it longer this time because I wanted to give you guys my inside thoughts. But yeah, usually I'll go like, and this is what I think will happen at the end of the year each week, with a different topic. And like I said, guys, this is my first episode, so it's a little sloppy, but I want to do Notre Dame-based content on this, but also just college football-based content, news, reports, and just the whole shebang. So, yeah, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. I know the background it's really bad. It's really, really bad. But I'm gonna try to put some decorations in the background, some Irish stuff. Of course, go Irish. And yeah, guys, I'll see you guys in my next episode on this podcast. But if you're subscribed to my YouTube channel as well, I'll probably be uploading a Boston College preview game, or a preview and game prediction, or whatever I do. I don't know. Whatever I decide to do will happen. And yeah, guys, I think that's all for this episode. And thank you guys so much for watching. Here on Jake the Sports, I'm signing off, and I'll see you guys later.
See you.